Dear participants, we're happy to introduce another speaker, another coach. Vijay, are you here? I can see you. Yeah, hello. Glad to see you. Yeah, okay. Okay. Let me to introduce you in a few words. I'm not sure I can do it in few words, but I'll try my best. Okay, so Vijayalakshmi S MCC MP ACTS Master Coach, Mentor, Coaching, Thought Leader, which is a distinguished award-winning global master coach and mentor, MCC from International Coaching Federation and MP from European Mentoring and Coaching Council, with 3,600 plus hours of coaching experience. She is a multi-faced management professional with 25 years experience in consulting and human resources and a background in law. Her coaching specialities include executive leadership, wellness, and conflict coaching. She's a systemic and team coaching, as well as an accredited mediator, and amongst the first worldwide to earn the distinguished ICF Advanced Certification in Team Coaching, which is a mentor for coaches and leaders. She is the founder of Coach Consult, an integrated coaching and management consulting practice, which is driven by the guiding belief play at full potential. She believes her purpose is to support individuals, teams, leaders, and businesses to explore and leverage their highest potential. And Vijay was honored as Distinguished Coach in the ICF Coaching Impact Awards in 2024. She was the first recipient of the ICF India Coaching Excellence Guru Award in 2022 and was awarded special recognition as highly commended in the MCC Global Mentoring Awards in 2023 and in the MCC Global Coaching Awards in 2021. So amazing, which served as a president of ICF Chennai in 2020-2022. Leading it to win the coveted ICF Chapter Excellence Award, chaired the landmark ICF India Conclave in 2021, and has been an active ICF volunteer leader for 7+ years. She is a celebrated speaker, writer, and change maker who uses her voice for good, bringing together coaches, leaders, and coaching bodies to drive impact. Wow, it's what I'm doing just now, uniting the coaching world, and thank you very much for this sense to feel us as a part of one, our great and beautiful coaching world. David, it's truly an honor for us to welcome you to the Central House of Coaching and Mentoring, and I'm extremely happy that this became possible. Thank you for finding the time and the opportunity to contribute to the growth of our coaching community. When you mentioned a potential conflict with an international business trip, our entire team was terribly disappointed, and so we are incredibly grateful that you were able to coordinate everything and join us today. So such a joy and honor to have you as one of our key speakers. And we are looking forward to a session with great interest. So thank you a lot, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Tatiana. It's my absolute honor. And, you were not the only one when my trip got postponed. I was very excited too. It's been a pleasure not just being here, but I think the whole build towards this event. I've been reading up your vision and what you're trying to do, the team, and it's a very grand vision, and I think it's a great purpose. So I think it all begins with purpose for us as coaches. So I feel a sense of synergy and alignment and oneness sitting with all of you here, though I was just scrolling through the chat and, as understandably so, I don't understand Russian, but I'm just trying to get a drift through emojis and things like that. And I must also say this is my second time addressing the Russian speaking coaching community. And I must say the first time I was a little nervous because I really didn't know how this simultaneous interpretation and how do you connect with emotion across languages? Yeah. So that was something that I felt a little nervous about. But this time, I'm very excited. I feel like a pro. But if there are still any mistakes, if I'm too fast, if I'm too slow, please bear with me, coaches. I'm sure we'll make this work. And my goal today is for the 80, 85 plus odd coaches here, mostly coaches on the call here today, and for myself, at the end of this time together, we should be able to take out some value from this whole conversation. There should be some meaning and some value. So even if there's one little thing that you take away from this session, I would just be very delighted. So with that quick sharing of what I feel today, I would love for you to put in the chat box, how you are feeling and what are you expecting from this session. I come from India and I will introduce myself a little bit more. I know Tatiana has done most of the heavy lift on that, so thank you so much. But I still have a slide, so we'll quickly skim through that. So do share in the chat box how you're feeling coming into this session and what you may be having in your mind. Yeah. And while you do that, let me just bring up my presentation because this is going to be one of my shorter presentations, but short also means it can be equally impactful. So it doesn't matter. And but I don't want to lose a minute. So I am jumping in. And if we finish early, we will always have time for more questions and answers.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Tatiana, can I proceed?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Okay,
Sure,
so the topic of my session today is prioritizing coach development, which simply put is for coaches as a profession, as a community, as a service to develop. And how do we navigate the future and our own development with intent, with great intentionality? And I think it's an apt topic for the overall and overarching theme of this conference, the International Coaching and Mentoring Week, which is creating our future together. And no better way to look at our own development as coaches and as mentors together. So I hope you are as excited about this theme as I was in putting it together. Let me move forward. As I said, a very quick introduction chart. Of course, this picture is slightly dated, so I hope I kind of look the same. I identify myself, and I think all of us have identities as coaches and coaches or any other professional. So I identified myself as a coach, a mentor. And in recent years, I consider this more a responsibility. And I think each of us coaches can be that, which is being really contributing to thought leadership and being a thought leader in our own rights, in our own communities. Really, I think propelling the profession forward, not waiting to be led, but propelling the profession forward. As Tatiana said, my interests are largely in executive leadership, wellness, conflict, systemic, and team coaching. And I think the other things she covered, but I want to just say I come from Chennai, India. Chennai is a coastal city, metropolis in the south of India. And right now, it's the peak of summer. I understand for many of you, summer is still very far away, but for us, it's the peak of summer. So enjoying the summer while it lasts. Okay, so let's dive right into the topic. So I want to just start off with this context or this framing. I've been coaching for several years now. And in my journey as a coach, and I think even as a human being for all of us, the world completely changed in 2020. Yeah. And, it left us all with, I think, a lot of loss, a lot of pain. But I think it also left us with precious lessons and learnings. My question to all of you here today, because I think most of us would have been around in 2020, do you agree with this? Did something shift for you around that time? And how did it affect your own being as a human being and as a coach? If somebody can help me with chat box answers, that would be great. Um, are there some responses coming, Tatiana? Please go ahead and, share your most honest responses, because all of us experienced 2020.
Yeah, I'll help you, but just a second. We have one question, but I think we'll leave it to Q&A question.
Okay.
No
Okay.
comments. No comments.
No comments yet. That's fine. Yeah. But I'd like you to sit with this question, and I'll tell you what something has come in the chat box, Tatiana.
Yeah. Though times help us to draw wise lessons, every crisis, be it personal or global, shifts something in our lives. Great influenced. We came to online, and the world gave us new colors.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who's sharing and continue to share that. And even if you don't share right now, do reflect what that could have meant for you. For me, and this is personal, you could either identify to some of it or not. There were three key learnings and three key insights for me as a coaching professional and as a coach. The three learnings were, none of us live in isolation. I still remember when the pandemic broke out, and this was in a land far, far away from where I was living. We were planning a holiday that summer, and we just thought that we are far away from it, and we couldn't have been wrong. Yeah, none of us was spared, and that's a stark realization that none of us live in isolation. And when there is hurt and pain in one part of the world, it's sure to get to the other parts very soon. Equally so, we are truly interconnected. And I found as a coach, and I know I'm sort of jumping the gun here, but I can't help it. But as a human being and as a coach, I found and formed some of my most beautiful, precious friendships and relationships in this time, through this crisis, across the world, in opportunities like this. I mean, I can't ever imagine, if not for the last couple of years, whether we would be so seamlessly connecting as human beings from very different cultures like we are today, and believing that we can add value to one another, not just connecting, but connection with a deeper purpose. We realized that irrespective of who we were, what jobs we did, which economic strata we came from, what we did for a living, what connected us was our deepest humanity. Yeah. And the other learning was, beyond of skills, labels, competencies, anything else, what mattered was mindset. Those with the right mindset, a mindset of resilience, of creating new things, of navigating adversity. These were people who not just survived that time, but I think thrived. The world at this time, and what happened, really, really enabled us to look at things from a far, I would say, broader perspective. It made us feel smaller in the larger scheme of things. And yet in that smallness, there was a deeper meaning that each of us carried. Yeah. Each of our lives, the very fact of living became far more purposeful. I know, and I've heard that, once we forget crisis, we tide over. With time, we forget the lessons. But I think as coaches, especially, these are lifelong lessons that at least I have not forgotten. And I found it so valuable. So I want to offer 3 insights that really have stayed with me and have struck me as a coach. The first one is that we don't coach in a vacuum. Yeah, I still remember completely pivoting my coaching methodology. Nobody taught me, no coach training school told me, no mentor advised me. I had to figure it out. But I realized that if I continue to coach just the person, just that human being, minus of everything that they were going through, it's not going to work. And that time in 2021, 2022, 2020, that period really enabled me. I completely had to change my whole way of being. My mindset had to change. The rules of engagement, the firm rules of coaching contracts, all of that became far more flexible, far more human. The second thing, and connected to this, was it's important to coach systemically, not just because you call yourself a systemic coach, you go through a certification. But I think as all coaches, and you know, I saw this change in the revision of competencies as well, where the entire systemic approach, right from contracting to coaching, has been laid out. But irrespective, I think as coaches, every one of us needs to understand that when we coach, we are impacting the system. And the person who's sitting in front of us is just not our only client. There is an extension. So it's not just important to coach systemically, but in every engagement, every conversation, every coaching, micro coaching opportunity, there is that space to create impact, long lasting impact, that one conversation that kind of continues way beyond the engagement. And that's real coaching. And we realize that in this time. Also, one of the other realizations was mindset becomes a key enabler for coaches to show up as leaders. Now, you can consider yourself as a coach, or you can consider yourself as a leader, or you can consider yourself both. Often in, you know, this is probably the fourth or fifth webinar where I ask my coaching audiences saying, do you consider yourself a leader? And often I don't see many hands go up in the room. When I say, are you a coach? Most hands go up. When I say, are you a leader? I don't see as many hands. And my belief or my experience, especially during this time, is that as coaches, we need to be real world leaders. You know, doing fantastic conversations that tick off all boxes in the competencies and get you through with recordings is not good enough. That's the minimum. But every opportunity is an opportunity to show up as a leader. And that will happen when your mindset is truly a coaching mindset, which is agile, flexible, and client-centric, as the competency says, but also beyond. Looking at yourself as a professional who is here to create real-world impact and to solve for real-world problems. I know as coaches, we don't solve problems, we don't advise. But our work will have its impact when it is solving for those real world problems. And I think, you know, anyone who thrived in their coaching work in this time, that was a lesson, a beautiful lesson that was offered, saying you've got to be relevant. Your work has to be relevant. You know, I still remember somebody being asked, here people are fighting for their lives and you're talking about people turning up for sessions. My response, not immediately, but with experience, was it doesn't have to be either or. I can still make a difference to lives if I'm doing my best coaching out there. If I'm mindful that I'm coaching in a larger systemic condition. And that's how the world has changed. The way we are connected technologically, the way we look at it, the kind of advancements that have happened, you know, in the last 5 years. It's been 5 years now, right? From the time the world was hurting. And I think the challenges, the interconnectedness, the systemic nature of our being is getting accentuated more and more. Tatiana, I saw the chat box pop up. Is there something for me to know, or can I proceed?
No.
Okay, great.
No.
So my friends, for coaching to stay relevant and for coaches to continue to make a meaningful difference, we need to navigate our future with intent. not take our position, our privilege as coaches, our professionalism for granted. There's always a talk in every coaching room. Is AI going to replace coaches? Are most coaches going to go out of work, out of business? I think the answer lies in saying, how are you going to continue to make yourself meaningful and relevant with intentionality? And I think that's what I want to, that's the underpinning before on, on what I'm going to share in the next couple of slides. And we need to prioritize our development as much as we do with our developing our business or doing anything else as a priority. It's not an afterthought. Development now needs to change from being an afterthought to being a priority. And that's a shift that I would urge all of us to consider. And what kind of development? Holistic development. And I will talk about it as we move forward. My opening statement for this section is, ongoing coach development is not just important, but also becomes a key differentiator. We all know that the coaching profession is growing rapidly. I think in the last count, there was close to 1.5 lakh professional credential coaches world over across bodies. There's always this, concern. How do I differentiate myself in a cluttered marketplace? I think what will really differentiate is not our business development strategies, is not our go-to market. But I think the key differentiator becomes those coaches who are continuously upping their game, continuously staying relevant, continuously able to bring the same energy and passion that they did in their first session after becoming a coach to maybe 10 years later or much, much later. The differentiator between a good coach and a great coach is ongoing commitment and prioritizing one's self-development. I would like to offer you a four-pronged approach, which I have developed, I would say, basis my experience over the last couple of years, and especially in the last 5 years, I would say. And this is all hands-on experiential. So I would always invite you, when it's somebody else's experience, to take it with a pinch of salt. A four-pronged approach that goes beyond conventionally a development plan or a coach development approach would focus on skills, would focus on competencies. And for a lot of us who have credentials, we are always thinking of CCUs or CPDs to, retain our credentials. That's not bad. Yeah. And I'm all for that. But we have to go beyond. The first one that I want to talk about, the first dimension or the first prong of the four-pronged approach is to develop our capacity to navigate rapid shifts. In 2020, the shift was something, that kind of rocked humanity. Every time it need not be that. Yeah. Some shifts are social. Some shifts are just economic shifts. Nations going through grave economic crisis. Consumer shifts. The way consumers want to live their life, the way your consumer approaches life, the way your consumer is evolving, the exposure to education. So these are the kind of shifts. For example, political strife, war. Now, these are all important shifts, and we cannot isolate ourselves. We need to be in the know. And I wonder how proactively we invest. And when I say we, it also includes me. I am not preaching here. I wonder, how much do I know? For example, am I aware, and I have friends, close friends in Europe, who tell me about, a lot of the challenges there. Now, I may not, to really evolve myself as a coach, I cannot be isolated. I need to know what's happening. And it's not just knowledge for knowledge's sake, but it's also about then thinking, how do I align my evolving coaching practice accordingly? My practice cannot be the same the way it was 10 years ago. I think it's important. It doesn't mean you change the soul of your work. It's not about doing fancy things, but it's about aligning and shifting. So, for example, with a lot of the younger generations joining the workforce, duration of sessions, or I would even say, greater informality in the coaching partnership. Some of these are trends that I pick up, at least where I live. And it's very important for me to see how is it that I can align the way I coach and the way I show up without sort of diluting my own standards and ethics. But for that, I first need to understand that there are shifts around me. That, for example, the way people buy, right? Do people invest in products or holidays or experiences? I think it's very important to understand your demographic. And that changes. That changes a lot. Equally important to develop foresight. And, many people think that systemic coaching is a model of coaching. I don't think so. Systemic needs to stem from the way you're being. Today, I am here sitting with colleagues from whom, if I can count n number of differences. What makes us different? But can I have a mindset when I step into this room to feel comfortable, to feel, to feel connected, to look for our similarities? Now that is systemic being. Knowing that my presence here today could deeply affect a lot of you, and equally so, your partnership can affect me. That is systemic being, and that's not a tool. It's not a way of coaching. It stems from, can we look at ourselves as part of larger ecosystems, that whatever we do has greater implication on the collective, and what happens in the collective affects you. Equally important is to build your creative muscle. So knowing all of this also means that you're ahead of the curve in doing the same thing differently. There are different definitions of creativity. Coaching itself is a creative process. But how much of that creativity do we bring into our work outside the session? The way we solve for problems, the way we even have our discovery calls. Yeah, and I think that's what I mean, that in our practice, you need to develop the capacity to innovate in response to all the rapid shifts that are going on around you, for which you need to be able to understand and learn and be connected to these shifts. So I would say self-development for coaches, is about investing in practices that enhance your agility, your flexibility, and your ability to pivot with ease. Without making it simplistic, right? The practice of martial arts enables this. So when coaches talk about building, what's the next thing that I need to do? My question when I mentor would be, can you do something non-coaching? I came in a little later into Christine's session, but I saw a lot of conversation and, around art. And that's exactly what I mean, saying, what are those practices that can enable you to stay agile and flexible? Because these shifts are not going to, it's not like ICF when it changes, a credential path or an announcement or something, right? Or any other organization. They will give you 18 months, 16 months. Yeah, this is the notice. Unfortunately, life and the way the world is changing around us doesn't give you any time. So you've got to be able to do it immediately. So I would say invest in practices that develop this muscle, and this has nothing to do with coaching. And yet it will make you a far more relevant coach when you meet your clients. I'm going to move on. Yeah. The second one that I want to talk about is your ability to develop non-coaching skills. And this is all about skills that enhance our systemic understanding of the world that we coach in. Skills that can enable you to have conversation and show up as a leader. Yeah, let's say you're in an audience of thought makers, leaders, organizational leaders. Are you able to have a place at that leadership table as a coach? Do coaches get called on to solve for problems or to facilitate that? Now, building those skills, which could mean from a practice, from a very micro level, it could mean strengthening your skills in technology, being way ahead of the curve, developing skills in consulting, because you start coaching, when you're getting into an engagement, you are consulting. You are enabling the client to look at coaching as an option. You are helping to solve a problem without solving the problem yourself. Equally so, branding. Branding is not social media marketing. Branding is about being able to position yourself authentically in alignment with who you are and the value that you bring. And there is a science to that. Business understanding of economics. You as an organizational coach, it's very difficult. I know coaching is subject agnostic, but when you go and have a conversation, especially for a systemic larger engagement, if you don't understand business, it's going to be really hard. So one of the things I do consciously nowadays is invest in building my non-coaching skills actively, because that gives me far more confidence to be able to coach with relevance and purpose. The third thing that I want to talk about, and this is my favorite, is every one of us coaches, irrespective of where we are on the journey, whether we are evolved, experienced, or we're just starting off, develop your ecosystem. There's no good time to do this. And this is probably the best investment that you can make. And all of us have networks. We have friends, we are part of groups, communities, but how much do we tap into our network for learning? We learn and sign up for programs run by experts. Yeah, but there's a huge potential for learning with your peers. Equally exciting is peer supervision. You don't necessarily need to, while it's great to go and be supervised by professionals, certified professionals, I think peer supervision is a fantastic opportunity to discover yourself in a safe space. Having a trusted mentor, and I want to make the difference. This is not about having a mentor coach who works on your credential or your competencies. It is about a mentor, somebody who is more experienced than you are, or differently experienced than you are, that you can hold as an anchor. Very important. Have one, have two, have mentors. Yeah, equally get into reverse mentoring. There are people, and I do this very consciously. It takes a lot of vulnerability to do that, right? With coaches who are starting off, reaching out to them, seeing what I can do better, learning. Mentoring is not one way. Equally, we think coaching is competitive. I think we are far few coaches compared to the number of people in the world. There is a place for everyone. And when we collaborate on coaching engagements, it doesn't just make business sense, but it gives for phenomenal learning. The team coaching competencies recognize a co-coach. I would say, how would it be to work with a co-coach in a systemic one-on-one engagement where you're working with across leaders? Fantastic learning, but we don't think enough of that. So we need to practice that as well. And this one is a little counterintuitive. We all want to hear the voices that support us, that grow us, that motivate us, that foster us. But we also need the voices that will critique us, challenge us, be our devil's advocate and our growth advocate. We know those voices who will actually come and say, I think your coaching is not masterful enough. I think you need to be doing this enough, right? Those voices matter, and you're fortunate. And those voices don't come because I have seen with the coaching community, we don't challenge enough. We don't debate enough. We don't have enough conflict in a good way. So having that, if you can have that in your ecosystem, that would be fantastic. I'm quickly having a look at my clock as well, Tatiana, and I'm being mindful of time. So I'm just going to run this. Do I have another 10 minutes, 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay, great. Great. Okay. Okay, that's fine. And finally, this one again seems like a no-brainer. Develop mastery of fundamentals. Yeah. What do I mean by this? And I say this being a master coach myself. Sometimes we take our evolution for granted. We are trying to look at growth very vertically. What's the next thing? What's the next credential, right? It's very linear and upwards. I would actually advocate for going downwards. Always go back. For example, I'm a big believer in the core competencies, or whether it's ICF, EMCC. It's fantastic. It's so simplistic. And yet that's where you need to build. You don't need to invest in the next fancy toolkit or assessment or add on one more credential to you. As long as you can go back every time to the basics, whether it's competencies or otherwise, that will be a true differentiator, because the world, in a complex world, the antidote is simplicity. If you can offer things simply, but very, very powerfully to your clients, they'd love that. Clients are not really interested what you're certified in. They want to see those results. They want to see you in a very uncomplicated way, partnering them from complexity to simplicity. So if you were to ask me to choose, would I want to go spend time refreshing my competencies and going back to my basics, listening better, partnering better, or get the next, novel, interesting course? I think I would prefer the first. If I had a choice, I'd do both. Yeah, but I would. So commit yourself to both reflective and reflexive practice. Simple distinction being, reflective is about your work, pausing, thinking, critiquing, growing through your work. Reflexive is deeply focusing on who you are. And the two are very connected, because who you are is really how you coach. And finally, share your wisdom generously, right? Don't hold back, because every time you teach, every time you talk, now I'm saying these things, I'm going to go back and say, hey, have you done this? Or are you just talking in thin air? Right? It just makes you so much more better at the basics. I'm going to leave you, my friends, with my 3 golden principles, and these are quite self-explanatory. If it makes sense, please do grab a screenshot of it. The first one, masterful coaching, great coaching, development is all about bringing in your unique human value. They can only be one me, right? They can be like 1,000 MCCs. They can be 1.5 lakh ICF coaches. They can be, so many things. I can give the statistic. But there's only one me. And coaching is still very uniquely personal. So don't shy away from that. How human can you be? Because even now, when I look back, my most memorable, gratifying engagements in, post 2020 have been the one where I have shown up with being human. Yeah, meeting my clients as a human being, not as a professional who is super skilled or qualified or technical. Second thing, invest your time heavily without any guilt or self-doubt in self-development. My rule is 10%. 10% of my revenue and my time goes in self-development. I don't think twice. I don't do the ROI. I don't do the math. But every time it comes back to me. And you can have your 15%. The math is yours. But commit to something. Have a plan. It can't be a consequence because you wanted to renew your credential. Practice self-leadership. Every time, we can't be leadership coaches, and I know a lot of us are leadership coaches. We work on the theme of leadership. We can't be leadership coaches if we're not leaders ourselves. So every opportunity you get to be a leader, to behave like a leader, be one. Use your voice for good. Each of us has a voice. We're more powerful than what we think we are. And I think that's what I would like to leave you with. Yeah. Thank you so much. How we leverage our self-development individually in the face of complexities entirely depends on us. I feel nowadays that I'm ready to bring it on, right? Bring it on. Let's take it where it is. I want to ask you, are you ready to do that as well? Because the future is going to be demanding. The future of our profession is going to be a question mark. People will ask, are coaches needed? It is going to be tough. But I think in all of that, there's amazing possibilities that lie ahead of us. Thank you. And these are my credentials. I know I breezed through literally, but I just hope it made some sense at least.
Yeah, Vijay, thank you so much. Unfortunately, time is up. Unfortunately, you have one question, but thank you so much for your so bright, reflective, thinking, provoking, insightful, valuable session. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time. Unfortunately, time is up. but
I'm sorry about that. And my promise to anyone, if you have a specific question, please email me. Please reach out. We can keep the conversation going. And I can see the chat box. I get a lot of Russian, but I'm just hoping it's all good things. So with that, I take that away.
yeah, many thanks to you. And so thank you again. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. So